Hey everyone, my name is Mitch Dyer. I am joined during this Far Cry 4 review roundtable by Colin Moriarty.
Beyond.
And Brian Altano.
Rap.
Gentlemen, I reviewed Far Cry 4. I want to talk to you about it, but before we do, let's take a look at the review. Diversity is one of Far Cry 4's strongest assets, and it overwhelms the mostly disappointing story with countless opportunities for freeform adventure and fun. Visual variety, tons of distinct side quests, and a dense world with plenty of options always gave me something I wanted to do, and its satisfying economy had me obsessing over every side quest. It's a little bit safe, almost like Far Cry 3 ideas transplanted onto an amazing new place, but the elements are so empowering that it can be spectacular fun. For more on Far Cry 4, head over to IGN. I would like to talk to you guys about Far Cry 4 as a next-generation experience. This is the first Far Cry game we've seen on new-gen consoles, PS4, Xbox One. It also came out for Xbox 360 and PS3. It works, it's fine, you know, the game is there. It doesn't look quite as good, but do you feel like playing this on PS4 and Xbox One that this is a true new next-gen experience?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't even really know what that means either. Like, when people talk about that, like, I don't know exactly like what we're looking for.
Fair enough.
With these new generation consoles. But as long as they're straddling the line and releasing pretty much an identical game on both, we're not going to see something that's truly taking advantage of the power of the new consoles. But it's, you know, it's like I said, it would be weird for me to say otherwise because it is identical in most respects to a PS3 game. So, you know, Far Cry 3 or an Xbox 360 game. So, no, I don't think so. But I don't think there's any fault with that. I haven't seen anything this generation that is new gen or next gen at all because I think it's more about the services and more about the way the consoles connect to the internet and the array of games that you have as opposed to single games and how they might play differently. And people want shooters, you know, and they want RPGs and they want action games and they're going to continue to get those. I don't see that changing.
And I think that the next gen effect, right? The things we're looking for are very small things. Like if you look at Assassin's Creed Unity, it's new gen only, and the details it has are like, wow, like it's just it is that graphical thing, but it's also just the density of the world. Like it feels alive because there are people in the streets, like enormous amounts of people.
Yeah.
And I think in Far Cry 4, the difference is like in the physics and the visual effects, right? Like the peace banners blowing in the wind and the snow drifting off the mountains and the fog coming over the hills. That stuff isn't really there on PS3 and Xbox 360. And for me, like that is what makes it. That just helps seal the deal with the world, with Kyrat being a truly like lived-in place, somewhere that feels, you know, real as it can get in a game.
Yeah. I think that we've moved the goalposts a little bit about what we thought this generation would be. I think we all thought it would be another leap like the Super Nintendo was to the N64 or the PS1 to the PS2 or the PS2 to the PS3, which was a huge leap. And I don't think it's been that case. I agree with Colin to the extent that this generation's been more about like the subtleties and the details and online service and stuff like that. But I do think that this game feels very next gen to me, and that's because once I've sort of come to grips with the fact that this is not going to be something that's completely photorealistic top to bottom, I'm okay with that, and I'm now happier to celebrate the fact that this game is like fluid, extremely fluid. It's smooth, and getting into a vehicle and driving across the entire world, crashing it, getting out, getting in a gyrocopter and flying up in the air, stuff like that to me is what makes this feel like it's a next-gen game, because it feels like I feel like this is one of the most fully realized, beautiful open world games we've seen in the new console generation. Whereas I feel like some of the other games are, you know, some of the other first-person shooters, like you look at Advanced Warfare, it's got a lot of good ideas, but it's still the single-player campaign is very, you know, point A to point B focused.
Yeah.
Whereas I could walk from end to end of this earth in Fallout and see new things constantly. Like I could take, like you were talking about taking off like a lot of the HUD elements and just walking around and exploring. I think like seeing the blades of grass, like seeing your helicopter get stuck on a part of a tree, like watching 3 elephants run in and flip a car over. The explosions look incredible. The little things like the flags, like just sort of like pieces of paper flickering in the wind, tearing off a poster from a wall, like little details. There aren't, you know, they're not photorealistic, but there are so many of them that they really add up to a beautiful experience. And I think that this game, it's actually leans towards its own sort of art style. Like it's somewhere in between, it's kind of cartoony, which I kind of love.
It's stylized in an interesting way.
It is stylized. It's not just photorealistic, which I think once you drop that pretense a little bit, you realize that, you know, in the style they're working with, in the world that they're building here, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it's a feat that they were able to put so much and such an amazing realized world into one place.
Yeah, and I think I mean, the fact that it is on 360 and Xbox One and PS3 and PS4 is indicative, like, okay, they were constrained by the previous generation hardware. So they could only do so much with the new gen consoles, but it doesn't ever feel like it's anchored in any way. It never felt like Far Cry 4 was like, it's almost there, and they just couldn't quite do it because of the last gen consoles. There's so much to this world. The space is enormous. The amount of things you can do is ridiculous. And then there's all sorts of crazy side quests, like you can go up into the Himalayas, and that's a totally new setting. It looks totally different. It's visually different. It operates differently. There are new mechanics in that you can shoot snow and it'll come down and crash down on enemies. You can go to, like you guys haven't done much of the side quest stuff or the story stuff, but when you go to Shangri-La, it is this incredible place, gold skies, red foliage, and it operates very differently, again, in terms of like how it looks and what you do, because you control a tiger and you're fighting enemies in new ways, and you have this spread shot bow and arrow that kind of slows time, and it's just, there's so much variety to what you're doing that it feels like such an enormous game that I forget that, it makes me forget like, whoa, what was the next gen, is the new gen? Like, it doesn't matter, it's just there, it's here, and it's big, and it's awesome.
Well, the power of the new consoles is we used to talk about how you have to make concessions on the old hardware to achieve what you were looking for, at least graphically or in your world. You have a game like Fallout 3 that's, frankly not very pretty, even for its time, and that was because they had to use, PS3's 256 megabytes of RAM to run the game to render the world, and then the other 256 megabytes for graphics. So with no constraints like that anymore, now you can have a big open world that looks like Uncharted, and it's a big open world like Fallout, and it's in the same package. And I think that's like what we're seeing with games like this now. Is that, the arc, like the line on the graph between like graphical jumps from platform to platform are actually lower now, I think, than they ever been. Like, I don't think this game is that much prettier than what you can do on PS3. If you look at a game like Uncharted 3 versus this, Uncharted 3 or Last of Us might arguably be prettier than this game. But now you can have a big open world that looks like that. And so it's about, having the RAM to run all of this stuff at once. And I think that's really cool. The draw distances are amazing. The game doesn't hiccup, it runs smoothly. There's a lot going on at one time. Animals are running in and explosions, and there's 7 guys shooting at you, and your friends are there, and everything just is perfect. Like a PS3 obviously couldn't do that as easily. So I think that is the new gen difference, is that you can have the best of both worlds now. You don't have to make these concessions. Well, we can only have The Last of Us if we have a linear game. Or you can only have Fallout 3, but it's got to look like this.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
That's us. Let us know what you think. You know the drill. Comments below. Tweet at us. Brian is at Agent Bizzle. Colin is at No Taxation. I am at Mitchy D. That's our review roundtable discussion for Far Cry 4. Be sure to check out the full conversation on IGN.